we as humans are energy-creating beings by default. It is our belief, along with many others, that energy stems from consciousness, and that this consciousness connects with the material world. By knowing how to change your thoughts and channel energy through your mind, you can actually influence reality. If you still don't believe that, we're going to present to you some of the most interesting experiments proving that our thoughts can influence or even change our reality. Intentions Experiment. Lynn McTaggart is an American journalist, author, and publisher that conducts experiments around the world. She did an experiment with 10,000 people that had to do with a single intention. She had a leaf, and the goal was to make the leaf glow. The group chose which leaf to use by flipping a coin. To see the leaf glow, a high-powered sensitive camera would monitor the photons the leaf emitted. Dr. Gary Schwartz from the University of Arizona was the one who led the experiment. The results were just as they suspected. The leaf that received the intention glowed much brighter than the leaf that didn't receive the intention. This experiment was repeated many times, and every time it was successful. A similar experiment was also performed, but with a plant. A large group of Australians sent energy to seeds. This caused the seeds to germinate faster, and the plants themselves grew faster and bigger. Again, this experiment was performed many times with the same results. Chu Lin Soon's psychic plant growing. While we're on the topic of plants, we can't ignore the famous Chu Lin Su, a Chinese woman who had the ability to grow seeds in her arms using only her mind. She practices Wai Qi, which is a type of Qigong that teaches the practitioner to bring the Qi energy of traditional Chinese medicine under the control of the mind. Chu Lin Soon can induce plant seeds to grow shoots and roots several centimeters long within 20 minutes using mentally projected Qi energy. This has been demonstrated on more than 180 different occasions at universities, as well as science and research institutions in China, Japan, Thailand, Malaysia, and many others. According to witnesses, the woman goes into a deep trance-like state in which she advances the time required to sprouting dry seeds from their usual 3 to 4 days to 20 minutes. After a genetic analysis, scientists confirmed this to be the case, publishing the incredible study in the American Journal of Chinese Medicine. Dr. Masaru Emoto's water experiment. A Japanese scientist named Dr. Masaru Emoto was one of the first to show us how our thoughts and intentions impact physical matter. He was able to show scientific evidence that the molecule structure in water can be transformed simply with human words, thoughts, sounds, and intentions. In his book, The Hidden Messages in Water, he shows what happens when water is exposed to different intentions, such as love, compassion, and benevolence, and how these positive intentions change the aesthetics of the crystal formation. When water is exposed to fearful or discordant intentions, the results are disconnected, disfigured, and unpleasing formations. He used magnetic resonance analysis technology and high-speed photographs to capture the differences. His experiment showed that even when water is polluted, it can be changed into something beautiful when it's exposed to prayer, meditation, and positive intentions. Humans are around 70% water, so just consider how powerful our thoughts can be on ourselves. Dr. Masaru Emoto's rice experiment. Dr. Emoto expanded his water experiment and tried something similar with rice. He poured rice into 3 beakers. He poured water into each beaker up to just past the rice level. Each day for 30 days, he thanked one of the beakers, told the second one that it was an idiot, and ignored the third one. The results were amazing. The rice in the beaker that he thanked started to ferment and give off a strong, pleasant aroma. The rice in the second beaker, the one he called an idiot, turned black. The rice in the third beaker, that was ignored, simply began to rot. Dr. Emoto wanted to show that physical results are affected by positive words and intentions. When you treat something or someone well, they will thrive. When you treat someone badly or ignore them, they will fail. Dr. William Tiller's experiment. Dr. Tiller is a professor emeritus at Stanford University for the Materials Science and Engineering Department. His passion is studying the mind over matter phenomenon. Through many experiments, he has been able to show that the mind can have a direct impact on physical matter. In one of his experiments, he had a group of people who placed their awareness on an electrical circuit that had a crystal on it. They implanted an intent on it, and the pH of water would go up and down based on it. The circuits were then wrapped in aluminum foil, shipped overnight to a lab, and placed next to a water sample. The participants in the study were isolated in a room with absolutely no distractions. All environmental factors were monitored carefully. The results of the experiment showed the water samples responded to the mind power as intended. pH rose or fell according to their intentions. What makes this more believable is that the chances of this happening on its own is 1,000,000 to 1. In another one of Dr. Tiller's experiments, he was able to increase the growth of fruit flies by 15%. This showed that the power of the mind is not limited by distance or time. CIA's remote viewing program. In July of 1995, the CIA declassified and approved for release documents revealing its sponsorship in the 1970s program at Stanford Research Institute in California to determine whether such phenomena like remote viewing and astral projection can be utilized for gathering intelligence. Thus began disclosure to the public of a 2-decade-plus involvement of the intelligence community in the investigation of so-called parapsychological phenomena. Remote viewing can be defined in multiple ways. It's the ability of individuals to describe a remote geographical location up to several 100,000 kilometers away, sometimes even more, from their physical location. A man by the name of Ingo Swann, who participated in the experiment, said he had an out-of-body experience in which he traveled and observed both Mercury and Jupiter. While at Mercury, Swann claimed that he had discovered that the planet had a thin atmosphere, a magnetic field, and solar winds, and that its sky was painted with constantly shifting lights, akin to the aurora borealis. He also claimed that Mercury had a primitive form of plant life, like a sort of lichen, which covered the rocks on the surface. Naturally, Swann was mocked off by scientists and wasn't taken seriously by anyone. Shockingly, when the Mariner 10 did a flyby of the planet for the first time, it found that indeed Mercury was very much as Swann had described it. It had been previously thought that Mercury had no magnetic poles, nor any atmosphere at all, but Swann had apparently seen this first, and the Mariner 10 findings backed this claim up. Concerning Jupiter, Swann described it as a frigid place with a noxious, poisonous atmosphere possessing a myriad of colors, like a giant fireworks display. He also said that he had seen vast, raging tornadoes on the surface, as well as ferocious winds far stronger than any on Earth. And he claimed the planet also had strong magnetic forces and a 30,000-foot-high mountain range. 8 months later, the Pioneer 10 passed Jupiter for the first time and saw that many of these predictions were all strikingly true. Everyone was astonished by the insights of Swann's remote viewing astral travel. Former American astronaut Edgar Mitchell was reported as saying, he described things and gave details that were not known to scientists before the Mariner 10 and Pioneer 10 satellites flew by and got the information. These are things that Mr. Swann couldn't have guessed or read about. His impressions of Mercury and Jupiter cannot be dismissed. Although the experiments of Ingo Swann's remote viewing don't directly implicate that consciousness has an effect on physical matter, they firmly prove that our consciousness is not limited to our brain and body, but it's something much more powerful. It proves that our bodies are just our physical vehicles, but our true nature is not physical, but spiritual. The double slit experiment. The observer affects the observed. This statement is well known in modern physics. It refers to how a person can affect what he is seeing. This is also what resulted from the double-slit experiment. The experiment involved looking at electrons and photons fired through a single slit. This causes a small dot to appear in the film. It's a lot like a bullet going through a doorway and leaving a bullet hole on the wall across the room. What's strange is that where you have two slits for the electrons and photon to go through, it doesn't produce a dot but rather a wave. In quantum physics, this speaks to how photon paths are knowable, so they respond as particles. When the path is not known, it responds in waves. The question is whether the photon is going through one of the two slits or breaks apart and goes through both slits. Unfortunately, no one has been able to answer this because as soon as they install a detector to track it, the wave pattern disappears. The detector is not physically influencing the experiment at all. The same firing of electrons and photons through the two slits is made, but with the detector, the response is different. The only explanation is the so-called observer effect. When the process is being observed, it changes the outcome, even though it is not directly affecting the process. This has been expanded to popular culture in that it shows that just by observing something, you can change the results. Many people criticize this explanation, so the experiment has been done many times. Recently, Dean Radin, chief scientist at the Institute of Noetic Science, published a study that re-examined the double-slit experiment. He further explores the power of the mind over matter. He set up the double-slit experiment in a room that was shielded from electromagnetic signals and physical vibrations. He had mediators and non-mediators put their minds inside the box and watch the photons go through the slits. The results were the mediators were able to change the patterns of the particles from a wave into dots, while the non-mediators did not produce that effect. To show that this happened over and over again, they performed the same experiment 50 times with 50 mediators. It was even performed with mediators online. Every single time, the wave pattern collapsed. It showed how the mind could affect results even from many miles away. To take it another step further, Redkin hooked up an EEG onto the participants to track their concentration. When they concentrated, it affected the results, and when they didn't, the wave pattern would show up again. On the EEG results, it shows that the right temporal lobe activity was high when they were concentrating and collapsing the wave. With all of this information, you're probably already wondering how you can use your mind to alter your reality. What you must know is that you must train your mind to concentrate and focus intently enough for your energy to infiltrate the universe. Many people will haphazardly say that they don't want to put something out into the universe because they fear it may turn into something negative. And really, it's the anxiety that they have that causes bad energy to go into the universe that will make that bad situation happen. The same thing has to be done with positivity. In other words, you must learn how to put off positive energy in a way that it will go into the universe and alter your reality. You must take control of your consciousness and make it believe and have faith that it will happen. There must be a deep feeling and emotion behind what you want to happen for it to have an impact, because those feelings and emotions are what is putting off the energy that will change your life.
Well, you've reached the end of the video. If you are interested in learning more about similar topics, here you will find other really interesting videos from the channel. Thanks for watching this video. Click on the like button if you enjoyed it, and do not forget to subscribe in case you didn't. See you on the next one.